Hey guys, how's it going? First, I want to thank you guys for letting me take a week off. I really had to play some catch up, so I appreciate it a ton. You guys have been very supportive in Discord, by the way. If you want to join Discord, that will be in the description below. Just look for the link and join us. We got over 100 members in there. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about bearded dragons versus Ackie monitors, and I don't think this is a real traditional versus. And by that, I mean I don't really see a lot of people saying, should I get an Ackie monitor or a bearded dragon? But there are a lot of commonalities between the two in terms of husbandry, sort of, in terms of origin, where they come from, and a lot of zoos cohab them, which is very interesting. So let's get to it, and like the monitor lizard versus Tegu video I did, we'll be going through 4 categories: intelligence, husbandry, interaction, and entertainment. Let's go, guys. A lot of Tegu versus monitor lizards was there's different sides of the coin, but they have pretty much equal parts. Here, when we're talking about intelligence, there's a key difference. Oh, I love Max. She is a delight. She is very funny. But she's not the smartest grape in the bunch, if you get what I mean. At least compared to Ackie monitors and monitors in general. I mean, monitors are so curious, inquisitive. They like to puzzle solve. I could go on and on, where Max, she's kind of just content basking and sitting on her hammock. It's a simple life for a bearded dragon. Nothing wrong with that, though. I mean, ignorance is bliss, am I right? But, you know, they're just not as intelligent as Ackie monitors and monitor lizards, like I said. Not saying there aren't intelligent aspects of a bearded dragon. I just think the clear favorite here in terms of intelligence is definitely Ackie monitors. Now, intelligence is great, but what can I do with it? I mean, how can that further my relationship with the reptile, in this case being an Ackie monitor? Well, Ackies, like I said, are great puzzle solvers. One really easy way to give that type of enrichment is just to throw your inverts that you're feeding to your Ackies in the enclosure and let them find it. Let them seek out that food instead of directly getting it. You could get some neat toys as well to make that interaction better and make it more complex. I have a video on that that will be in the top right. So there are really cool things you can do with them, and just generally interacting with them, they're always curious about you, and that makes them more hands-on, but we'll get to interaction in a minute. For bearded dragons, there is some intellectual related interaction you could do with them. They are very food driven, so you can really utilize that aspect to make them think a little bit. You can do some enrichment with them for mental stimulation. They might not be as good at complex puzzles or anything, a lot of the toys, as Ackie monitors, but they do have some smarts. I know when Max really puts herself up to it, sometimes she goes along the glass in the front to get out because she wants to run around. She knows that when she does that, I'll open it up. So they can learn some stuff, and there is some interaction that's intelligence-based, but like I said, just not like an Ackie. So yeah, clear-cut winner here is definitely an Ackie monitor. Let's move on to a topic that's not quite so different between these two reptiles. Obviously, when deciding between two, do you guys hear this? I know in the last video I went ahead and yelled at a bird, and it looked kind of out of nowhere because you couldn't hear the bird, but they literally are screaming at me, alright? I can't say a word every time I talk. When I go quiet and don't say anything, they don't do this. But when I talk, What's that, bird? You want everybody to subscribe to Professor Herp and hit that bell in the lower right-hand corner? Wow, that's amazing, bird. Doesn't say anything now. Doesn't say anything. Anyway, when deciding between two reptiles, you obviously need to make sure you can meet the husbandry requirements. So let's talk about these two reptiles' husbandry requirements. Bearded dragons and Ackie monitors share some common territory out in the wild. They do have some differences in requirements though, although not vastly different. For one, Ackies enjoy a much higher humidity level time to time than bearded dragons, but they get a lot of that in crevices in the wild where there's an abnormal microclimate that has high humidity, and obviously bearded dragons existing in a similar environment will kind of stay out in the lower humidity areas. Basking temp, monitor lizards in general, especially Ackies, they will enjoy a much higher basking temp. I give the highest point 160, but the gradient usually goes about 135, 140 to 160 for them, where my bearded dragon I give anywhere from 115 to 125 even. Both guys are sort of climbers. Bearded dragons like to hang out when they climb though, and they don't climb as much and as high. They're not as testy hierarchy of smaller twigs and logs where, you know, Ackies, they will test themselves and see if they can get the hard-to-reach points. So they both will climb somewhat. I would not call a bearded dragon semi-arboreal, though, where Ackies, I think you could argue that they are. Both get a lot of their water from what they eat and not really pulled up water. They both respond better to moving water. This is definitely more apparent in bearded dragons, but I can see it in Ackies too. Sometimes when doing a brief spray down of my Ackie enclosures, I do spray them for a little bit and see if they want to drink, and they will drink. I do think the only reason why standing water is somewhat okay and decent for Ackies is because they run crazily around the enclosure and they're bound to run through their water bowl and see there's water in there, where a bearded dragon is more complacent and not moving as much, at least compared to Ackies. So I do think that's really the key difference here, but I think overall moving water is beneficial to them. Oh, and obviously a key difference is bearded dragons need some greens. You know, they're both invert eaters, but Ackies are primarily invert eaters, where a good portion of bearded dragon diets is their greens, so you want to make sure you offer them a decent salad from time to time. Collard greens, kale I throw in there. Sometimes I put bits of bell pepper and squash in there, so you want to make sure you offer that and know that you might be wasting some greens when getting a bearded dragon. They can make quite a mess and probably not eat most of what you offer them. Only other thing I could really think of husbandry-wise that might be a little bit different is I would offer a slightly bigger enclosure for an Ackie monitor than a bearded dragon. Bearded dragons are commonly kept in 4x2x2 roughly, and a lot of people argue that for Ackies, although I think that is pretty small for an Ackie. I say no less than 5x2.5x3 feet for an Ackie, so that's really where the comparison for enclosure size is, but it's not too different. Otherwise, substrate, UVB, all that stuff, that's pretty similar between the two species. I do think generally that bearded dragon husbandry is a little bit easier than Ackie monitor husbandry, but overall it's really what you're most passionate about. I think Ackie husbandry personally is easier to me because I really am into my Ackie monitors and I really get into that whole mindset a lot easier. So it's really what you're passionate about, but generally, and this includes access of information since there's so much bearded dragon information out there, bearded dragons are the way to go if you want something a little bit easier. Alright guys, moving on to our next category. Interaction. Both of these guys are very interactable. I don't know if that's a word, but if it is, both of them are that. They are kind of different in demeanor though, and that's probably what you want to look at in terms of interaction for these two. Bearded dragon, I mean, I think it's been a common theme so far in this video that they could be more relaxed, taking it easy. They're just in the Caribbean, having a good time. Where Ackies, they're parkouring everywhere, they are super fit, they're trying to win that strongest man competition. I don't know, they're just always crazy doing wild stuff. It's always an adventure with them. So for free roaming, I think a bearded dragon is a lot easier to deal with free roaming than an Ackie. I don't even really try to like take my Ackies out, put them on the ground too much, because they're just so inquisitive and distractible. I'm saying all these bulls and I don't even know if they're words. But yeah, they could get really crazy and be much more independent than a bearded dragon when out and about. So I think free roaming wise, a bearded dragon is more of a way to go if you want something to chill with you, relax on your lap. Bearded dragon's the way to go for that. I have seen Ackies be pretty chill. My guys are nutballs, but they can be pretty chill, but generally a bearded dragon more so. On the other side of the coin though, Ackies, when they interact with you, it's much more rewarding, I find. They are much more into you, trying to figure you out, analyze you. It's just a more personal connection, I feel like, where, you know, maybe you feel a personal connection with beardies. I'm not going to say nobody ever does, but I feel like beardies are kind of more in their own area, in their own zone, just existing with you though. Additionally, if you're interacting with them in their enclosure, Ackies are fantastic. You could do a lot with enclosure design, especially since they like to do a lot of parkour climbing and stuff like that, like I'm indicating. So there could be a lot of fun in there, where bearded dragons, like I said, they're a lot more complacent, relaxed. They might not be as curious, so the interaction in the enclosure definitely probably goes to an Ackie monitor. In the end, both of these guys you can interact with and it could be a good time. It's just whatever your speed is. If you want something more low speed, relaxed, go with a bearded dragon. If you want something more high speed, curious, possibly more personable, go with an Ackie monitor. That's really what it comes down to in this category. And finally, our last category, guys. I think a lot of entertainment has already been said. I mean, Ackie Monitors is just always an adventure with them. They're always doing crazy things, trying to one-up each other if you have a pair living together. But bearded dragons can be pretty entertaining too. I mean, they're a little clumsy, and that's kind of what's entertaining about Max, at least to me. They're kind of funny, their interactions with you, especially if you have a male with the head bobbing. That's really funny and entertaining. So it's really what you're looking for. They're very silly, both of them. One thing I love about Max, for a while, I just could not get her to eat her greens. She would eat them time to time, but just not as much as she should, which really inspired this t-shirt I'm wearing, Salad for Chumps. And of course, once I make this, she starts loving her salad. But when she started eating her salad a lot, I would always walk in the room to see, and I just see her staring at me with just a collard green in her mouth, and then she just like spits it out. It's just really funny. I mean, obviously, I don't think she's like thinking how I portray or how I see what she's doing, but it's just funny nonetheless. I would say the major difference between the two of them is I'm always discovering new things about my Ackie Monitors, where the behavior of my bearded dragon Max is pretty similar constantly, and I discover far less things about her time to time, so it could get a lot more silly and a lot more entertaining seeing new interactions and new behaviors from my Ackies than my bearded dragon. But overall, they're pretty similar in different ways. They could be little devils, they could be very funny, like I said. It's really what your cup of tea is. Anyway, guys, I think that about wraps up this video. Let me know what you think. Have you ever thought about an Ackie Monitor or a bearded dragon? Contemplated which one of those you would get? Do you own an Ackie? Do you own a bearded dragon? What do you think about my comparisons? Let me know all that stuff in the comments. That would be very much appreciated. We'll go ahead and wrap this video up with a couple announcements. Shout out to you wonderful patrons, Kat and Rick, Mahan's Bioactive Reptiles, Brian B., Herb M, Angela L, David T, and Smooth Cat. Thanks so much for supporting the channel. You guys too can support the channel for as little as $1 a month. Check the top right for more information. Like I said, we have merch designs. I have my Salads for Chumps on right now that you saw earlier. I have 3 different designs though. That'll be to the left of my head, right of your screen. If you're interested in those designs, check the description below. There will be a Teespring link. It'll all be in there. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm happy to be back. We have a really funny, hopefully entertaining video coming out the following week. Not this week, next week. So look forward to that, guys. There'll be some teasers posted and everything. Alright guys, see ya.